made the decision 3 weeks ago to work from home to make sure we looked after our people. We all work on one floor, the whole business, and the benefit is we can just open our laptop and work anywhere.
Hello and welcome to Homescreen. I'm Jim Safford, and today I'm going to be joined by Travis Tyler from one of Australia's really early exponents of neobanking. This is 86400. Just to start off with, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be involved with 86400?
Yeah, so Travis Tyler, and my role is the Chief Product and Marketing Officer. I am a 20 plus year banker. I've had the joy of working across most parts of retail banking, finance, operations, product. But spent the 10 years before joining 86400 building and growing digital businesses within banks, which is where my passion is. So that led me into joining 86400, and it was a big move because I've been somewhere for 10 years.
Wow.
And my wife and I made the decision to move on my 40th birthday. So that was my present. I was going to be homeless, so that made her happier.
Nice. Where did you move from?
So I was at Westpac, so one of the big banks.
Yeah.
So I spent 10 years there, and I spent 10 years at a regional bank. So I had the benefit of smaller and agile, and then big and smart.
Big and smart. Could you describe briefly what the sort of banking market looks like in Australia right now? Who are the key players, and how is it changing?
Yeah, so it looks similar to what the UK was probably 3 or 4 years ago. So dominated by the big four, I think it's big 5 or 6 in the UK.
Yeah.
And in the last sort of year, you've started to see the emergence of the neobanks. So the big four have 80% market share, just been through a royal commission, and people are ready for something different. So we were lucky enough to start the journey well before the Royal Commission. So 86400 was started by our CIO, and in 2017 and then 2018 we started building the bank, and then we were the first to launch in September 2019. Mm-hmm. And we're rapidly growing, and every second of every minute of every day, all 86400 of them are very, very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys quite unique in the sense of, from my perspective, in that you actually are thinking a lot in terms of the financial products that you can offer customers. What was the thinking there in terms of, we want to start offering sort of energy switching and also things like home loans. You wanted to get involved in that sort of business right off the bat? Yeah,
there was. So our chairman, Anthony Thompson, who a lot of your UK listeners would know, starting Metro Bank and Adam Bank.
Yeah.
Is obviously been on the journey, and then our CEO Rob Bell wanted to make sure we had a sustainable business from the start. So we built the bank and the deposit business and the loans at the same time, and then launched loans 10 weeks after actually launching the bank. So that's given us a head start on the rest of the market, so we can move towards break even, which means we can give long-term value to customers. And then the energy switch product, we wanted to look at other ways that we can help people save in a low rate environment. Interestingly, most people can save in Australia more on their energy than they can from interest on their savings accounts.
Right, yeah. I think that's a very similar story in the UK as well. That's fascinating though, that you sort of, one of the main approaches that we've seen UK challenger banks take is that they don't necessarily want to have all of that, all of those financial products on their own balance sheets, but want to provide essentially the home for all of those different financial products to pass through, if you will. So, and that's not the approach that you've taken. It's been a bit more around the actual developing the products themselves. And we've actually seen those fintechs actually struggle to reach profitability and not be able to get there. And that's damaging them now in this sort of era that we're living in now of infectious viruses and all that kind of stuff. So it seems to be a different technique that you guys are taking.
Yeah, look, we've had the advantage of looking at what's happened globally. So Australia wasn't as fast. We've actually had a strong digital banking market for the last decade.
Yeah.
So Australia was reasonably untouched from the GFC. So all the big banks kept investing billions through that period when everyone else had to stop. So yeah, that means the bar's a lot higher for us. So yeah, there's reasonably good experiences out there. So experience is ticket to the game in the Australian market. Yep. But you need to get to a business model that means that you're sustainable.
What sort of skills do you think that you sort of needed to develop, or a chief product and marketing officer typically use?
Yeah, the role I've got's actually got 4 elements. So it's got design, product, marketing, and actually distribution with our mortgage business. So definitely wear many hats. One of the advantages of it is it's just a single point of accountability. So one strategy, one customer, one execution plan. Yeah. In terms of my background, this role, the reason I was so excited about it was it had the perfect use of my existing skills, and there was growth, and then there's an enormous amount of stretch. So one of the most important things for me, and I've had the benefit of running big teams and small teams, is you're only as good as the people that you work with, and being able to bring in a diverse range of people with different backgrounds, both banking, but we got a lot of non-banking people as well in my team, not just obviously in technology, but that allowed us to think differently around how do you go to market, what does a product look like, how do you service customers. So if I have a look at our acquisition team, it's got a lot of e-commerce people in there, and they're thinking about product market fit, loops around growing and different things like that. Our head of marketing actually is from the creative arts, so very, very different background again. And then we do have the hardcore bankers in the team as well, because things like payments are unforgiving, and you cannot get those wrong. So you've got that perfect blend of skills.
Yeah, you do need those specialist sort of bankers, don't you, as well as the fresh sort of like I always remember there being Tom Blomfield from Monzo here in the UK talking about the amount that he'd learned from working on a dating app product. Like the idea that these sort of all a combination or a culmination of these different sort of product experiences will all come together and mesh together to create ultimately the best fintech or neobank services that you can, which is a fascinating sort of route. I wondered if there is any sort of just general or sort of normative approaches that you've taken towards adapting to life, under consumer data, right, and then more immediately and more tangibly what's going on with COVID-19 right now around the world.
So from an 86 to 100 perspective, we decided that we wanted to be part of driving change. So we signed up to be one of the initial data recipient participants, which is quite hard to say, which means we're paired with the Big Four, which is it's quite an interesting experience because it's not necessarily something that the incumbents want to do, is open up their rivers of gold of data. But the helpful thing for us is we've built for an open bank from day one. So we're open API enabled. We've got 120 partnerships, of which 40 plus are fintech already. And so we're already aggregating over 100 institutions in our app. So we just see it as a really natural way to deliver services for customers. And we genuinely believe that the data is the customers. So they should be able to use it to their benefit. And that's why we're in there working with the Big Four. So we'll be part of getting that first phase by July, which is still on track from what the ACCC is saying. Yeah. And then we'll be obviously delivering as a data holder, we'll be delivering our open services to the market as well.
Cool. Sounds good. And in terms of what's going on immediately within Australia, my understanding is that the country's not locked down in the same way that maybe the UK is right now, but there are still some things that you can do in order to minimize the risk potentially. Yeah,
although we're not locked down, it does feel like it. So we've been told that people are now getting fined if they're caught outside for the wrong reasons. You can only travel in twos. And I live on the coast, our beach, you're not allowed to surf, it's closed. It's got fences around it. So although we don't have an official lockdown, it is pretty much that. So it's been interesting for a lot of businesses. One of the one of the byproducts of this is it's going to accelerate digital transformation. An old colleague I worked with had a lot of respect for, always used to say, when you build something new, you should shut down the old. So the old freeway concept, get rid of the side roads. And that's effectively what this is going to do to a lot of businesses, to force them to be digital only. And it's going to drive some innovation if we're looking at what a silver lining could be. But the other one that's incredibly, will be really interesting in the next 6 to 12 months is the acceleration of behaviour change in society, where either demographics or particular segments just didn't make that leap to digital. They're going to have 3 or 6 months of having that as the only option. And then a lot of people actually, where those fears were, they'll overcome those and go, wow, this is actually a lot easier. So, for us, it's similar to the UK, not as intense. We don't have the same, we are surrounded by water, which has helped us a little bit. But we are seeing the same impact on business. We've got a significant increase in unemployment already, like what's happening around the globe. And businesses are adapting, and they're adapting really, really quickly. For us, we made the decision 3 weeks ago to work from home to make sure we looked after our people. We all work on one floor, the whole business, call center, technology, risk, product, marketing. And so it was for our staff and our families, and the benefit is we can just open our laptop and work anywhere. For us, from a productivity perspective, it's been, I've seen a bit in the media around some people saying that they've lost productivity. We haven't really seen that. We deployed an app a week ago. We have a new app going live tomorrow. We've just updated our public roadmap, and we're actually doubling down on the commitments that we said we would deliver. Doesn't mean there's things that aren't harder, but definitely the benefit of being digital only, no paper, everything's end to end, and then collaboration. It's probably made virtual collaboration better, because again, we've all been forced to move away from our learned and old behaviours.
That's really, that's true. It's really helpful if you can, like us, essentially just rely upon a MacBook or something that's sat there in front of you. There are so many businesses which rely upon hardware or somewhere, especially where I'm from, for example, in the north of England. There's a lot of heavy industry, and those people are really struggling at the minute. But we're very lucky to be able to have one very small piece of hardware right here.
Our CIO started our business, so we started with Slack. We started with work anywhere, bring your own device, that sort of thing. So I guess that's one of the advantages of having a technologist start your business.
Absolutely. One final question, which is to do with the product and marketing role specifically. Now, I don't know for any of the viewers out there who are familiar with our other content, our Chief Marketing Officer spoke to the Vice President of Marketing at Monzo, a guy called Tristan Thomas, who is has come from a product role into that marketing role. And it was really fascinating, that discussion, because he actually was talking about the fact that there is such an intertwined or interlinked relationship between the product role and the marketing role, in the sense of they feed off each other. They're sort of dependent on each other, more so now in digital products than in different companies or different types of businesses. And I wondered if that was also your experience with those two roles combined into one. How do you feel about marketing, and how do you sort of link it together and tie it in with product?
So I listened to the podcast actually a couple of days ago. It was great. I recommend it for anyone. It was really insightful. I couldn't agree more. So I ran the digital businesses. So I was sort of a blend of product and marketing in my last role, and I always observed them working separately. And marketing is actually, it's a culmination of all the experiences with your organization. So the benefit I have is from when you first hear about us to how you experience us, and then when you interact with us, we have the ability to get that red thread and deliver one consistent experience all the way through, and ultimately everything layers back into our purpose. So with what Tristan said on the podcast last week, I totally agree that the way that you're thinking about product, the way you design your product, needs to fit with the way that you're marketing, and needs to align with your purpose. And if you're not a purpose-driven organisation in this day and age, it's very hard to deliver an authentic experience to people. and having them together, it really does. It does mesh, the strategies, the way you're thinking, and largely every experience that you deliver to your customers. And people are looking for consistency. Don't tell me one thing and then I experience something very different. Now, if you're building that product, when you're marketing that product, you intimately understand it, and then you can communicate it in a way that it's very authentic, and talks to the value that delivering customers.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the other things he said, which I thought was interesting, was that often, especially in the early days, the product is itself the marketing in a lot of ways. So there is so much sort of in product experience, which then can be marketable or shareable or that sort of thing. So there needs to be that sort of neat link there as well, not just in external communications or when you're throwing tele ads together or whatever.
For early stage companies, I totally agree. You can't afford to market like incumbents. You just don't have that revenue to support it. And for us, there's two measures that are important. It's advocacy and satisfaction. And you can't deliver that if you don't have a great product. So the product is in early stage, and with any business it is just critically important.
Yeah. What we're going to do now is take a look at the first view, which is of the energy switch process within the app. We log in via Face ID, and from here we're sort of greeted, and a little tile at the bottom invites us to sort of switch our energy provision. So as you mentioned at the outset, this is essentially a way for us to be able to save money. We can do more by switching our energy provider than by going into a high interest savings account nowadays, and then into an email. I guess it's some sort of like magic link where we're taken through to an API, and then from there able to log back into 86400 and see, based on a series of providers, how much money we could save up top. So I guess these are partners that you've got right now?
Yes, we've got 5, and we're bringing on some more.
Cool.
And so that when you've sent your email, and we've actually scanned 200 data points to come up with they're the best plans. We've got hundreds of plans in the background.
Okay.
And then you can see there that we're actually using the consent management approach of open banking, where we get you to positively elect to share that information.
Cool.
And you're actually switched now.
Oh, right.
So nothing else to do.
It's a bit tight.
And so we wanted to make sure anything that we do, not only do we show you the value, but we can actually do it for you.
Yeah.
And that was really important. So not only we compare, but we then switch, and we don't take any commission at all. Zero. Yeah. And through testing, we tested it 7 or 8 times. We had to be very explicit, because no one would believe a bank wouldn't take a commission.
Yeah.
And again, that's just because we want to build advocacy with our customers, and we want to help them save with things where they're already spending. So far, we've had, in 2 weeks, we've helped customers find 50,000 savings, and we haven't marketed it yet. Someone saved $1,700 a year. The average customer saving around $250 to $300 at the moment.
That's
so
brilliant.
It's really meaningful amounts of money, and the process is just so easy.
Yeah. For sure. So how does that technically work then for you guys? So you access sort of view-only data, I'd imagine, from within their account to see what type of payments they're making, and then from there you can suggest based on a list of providers who would be most suitable.
So at the moment, we actually have an upcoming bills feature where we can show what, based on connecting your accounts, we actually predict all your bills, including your energy and any energy bills, and it's seasonal as well. So we do look at the last 13 months.
Okay.
So people have total visibility of that. The energy switch service they can use anytime they like, so they can just send, and it's as easy as just sending your PDF. 75% of Australians get their bill now via email.
Yeah.
And then we just scan it, and we'll let you know how much you can save. If people have permission, they can get their mums, their brothers, their sisters, their friends, send it in and see what they can save.
Yeah.
And then they can either call the energy provider themselves, or they can join us and switch.
Nice. That's cool. And how has this been made possible, the ability for this function to come about? Is this because of the CDR stuff that's been going on, or is it something specific to what you've built?
Well, this actually gives it. It actually is built on open principles. We're sharing data. So we actually partnered with a company called Accuracy, and I came across them 4 years ago when I was at a big bank, but it just wasn't possible to get it done. And when I joined 86 to 100, I called Ross up as the CEO there, said we can get this done now. So we use their service. They've been building this database for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Amazing business. They do the scanning and analysis for us, and then we aggregate that up. And then we share the information into the underlying energy system, energy providers' systems. So it's literally end to end. So that's where all the heavy lifting was. So it's all API. And again, to your point, it gives you an idea of what CDR will do across industries, where you'll start to mesh experiences together, and who is that provider today may not be that provider of that service in the future.
Sure. And one of the curious things from our perspective about CDR is that it's more wide-reaching than, say, our own open banking and even payment services directive to European banking regulation, in which it covers telecoms, energy providers, all of this kind of to provide a much more sort of holistic view of a person's sort of data lives, if you will. That must be really exciting from a further development in terms of how you can bake all of that into your product and move it forward.
It is, and that's another reason why we actually wanted to. We built this incredible technology. We wanted to actually start to test now what value and what will CDR look like, so we can actually bring some of that now to guide some of our investment in the future. And we've got a disproportionate amount of investment going into building open banking. We're a small company. We've got 28 developers. We've got 3 working on open banking. Yeah. So that gives you an idea of our commitment, even though it's small in dollars, it's still large for us.
Yeah.
But we do see it as the future of business and services, albeit it will take longer to be valuable, and it will be very transformational over time.
Yeah.
But looking at how it's rolled out over the UK, we're expecting a similar slow burn over the coming years. One of the challenges that we do have is the data that will be in the first tranche of open banking that will come in this year is actually less than what you can get today through screen scraping.
Yeah.
So that will be one of the challenges. It will be a smaller subset of banks, and it will be a smaller subset of data. But once that starts to grow, then you'll see obviously innovation and business models spur off the back of that.
Yeah. And presumably, like, screen scraping will be outlawed or will be prohibited as a result of this new data?
Not in the short term. So there's a fintech inquiry that has just gone on in Australia, and some of the regulators have come out and been very clear that in the first instance it will coexist. But every organisation, including ourselves, want to move to it, but it needs to be valuable. In the first instance, it's going to start to get the infrastructure and the ecosystem live, but there won't be a huge amount of value from a customer perspective day one. It's 4 banks, it's a subset of data, but it's the beginning. The other thing with something like this, you do need to make sure it's reliable. You need to make sure it's safe and secure, because effectively it's going to become a public asset.
Yeah. So though not massive short-term gains for the end user, but long-term it's a game changer for you guys.
Absolutely.
So so a little bit more about this energy switching. What was the kind of driver for making this sort of priority feature build for you guys? So
if we look at people, there's in terms of people joining, when people join neobanks, they want to see what's different. What's going to give me value that I can't get elsewhere. So we wanted to look at how can we genuinely give people value that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And Australia has 18 million people that bank. There's 10 million people or 10 million households that pay an electricity bill.
Yeah.
So it has impact and scale. So if we got every Australian to use this service, we could save Australia $4.2 billion, for instance, based on the average savings. So it's big, and that's something that we want to go after and put it back in to Australians' pockets.
Yeah.
The second part for us was it actually does leverage our capability. So one, we wanted something that genuinely gave value to customers, and the other one was we'd actually prove out what a future banking model can look like and start to go across industries. And then the third one for us is we see this as potentially a customer acquisition tool. So at the moment, it's a service for our existing customers, but we will be offering it in the near term just from our website, where you'll be able to come and just send us your bill and see whether you can save money. So it's another reason to come and try 86400.
Very cool. Nice one. So let's move on now to, we're going to go and take a look at some of the smart statement functionality. So you've got this portal now where we can sort of send a smart statement request. And then from there, we see a response summary is generated. What's going on initially within this area?
Yes, this is for our customers that are getting a home loan with us, and we operate through brokers. So rather than give us your pay slips, your rental statement, your bank statements to verify income and expenses, all we get you to do is a one-time request from your bank to get all of your transactions from all of your accounts. And then we aggregate that up and provide you a 1.5-page view of your whole financial world, what's happened in the last 12 months. My wife and I went through this when we got our home loan with 86400, and it actually took 247 pages of transactions across 3 banks and 20 accounts, and showed us how much we spend on shopping, how much we spend on our home, what we earn, because it actually shows your earnings across different categories as well. Incredibly insightful for people, because the first time they can actually see where all their money's going. You've also got a comprehensive list of banks in there as well, and so presumably that's sort of half done at the minute between being able to sort of get view access to it, and the other half is maybe done via screen scraping mechanisms. How's that done? It is. It's this. It's a one time, so there's no credentials. It's all stored locally on the device. It's very secure. So there's over 100 banks that you can choose from there. So nearly every Australian can get their view of where they stand. And there's 2 reasons we did this. One was actually to help with the verification process, to speed it up. So we are able to give unconditional approval in the Australian market in about 2 hours, which the average is 6 days in Australia. The second one was actually to help people understand how much can I truly borrow and what am I willing to give up to get that house. So we wanted to make sure people were making a conscious decision of how much they borrow. And we tested it with over 200 customers, and it was 2 learnings from it. There is no 2 households that have the same financial spending profile. Everyone is unique.
Really?
And then the second one is everyone spends more on certain categories than they think.
Right.
And everyone there was an element of disbelief of how much people spend. For us, it was how much we spent on groceries. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
I'm not sure we're going to keep eating organic.
Or at least stop the kids from eating organic.
They don't need any of it anyway.
Absolutely. And then the next part of this journey related to the generation of the report. So in this, we have smart statements down the left-hand side here. You can see we've taken that time, and now it's generated a report for us. You see there, successfully completed in the top right-hand side, and then we can generate that PDF. So you say this is within sort of 2 hours. We've created a PDF. And here, monthly household income, expenses, really nicely and cleanly laid out for the user there.
Sorry, James. So this report only takes about 5 minutes to do.
Right.
And it actually aggregates 2 people's information. To give you that household view. We then take this information, and then we can give people an unconditional approval on their mortgage in 2 hours. Okay,
so that's actual. So the report is generated really quickly, and then based on that report, you're able to then generate the loan provision or the mortgage.
And then the customer, with that report, they can look at it, and then they can say, well, how much do I really want to borrow?
Yeah.
And then from that information, we're able to verify much easier for the customer.
Yeah, very cool. So a confirmation happens and a PDF is generated. What would you expect the user to do with that PDF? Is it something they would typically save and hold on to? Is it a nice to have? Is it essential for something?
Look, at the moment, it's something that the customer, the broker shares with the customer and they take home. But again, there's actually been a lot more value in it than we thought there was for the customer, because for the first time in most people's life, they can see where they stand with their money and where they can make cutbacks or where they can't. So it is something we're looking at, whether we offer it actually to our customers through our app as well, because it's provided such an insight to customers into their financial world. And this is the thing, it's unique to me. So the report is about you and how you spend, not people like you, which people have really enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. And I can imagine like this sort of aggregation of different account information into one place is something that people, even here in the UK now, even after 3 or 4 years of open banking, are still yearning for that level of like insight into how their spending is happening. We have aggregators like Yolt here and Emma and that kind of thing, but they're not doing this sort of thing. So it seems like a really transparent way of being able to provide a financial view of your whole life. Are these sort of intermittent sort of check-ins that you'll generate this report, or is it not an ongoing thing that they're able to?
So right now it's for when people go through the home buying process. We want to help them better inform to make the right decision for them. We may look at deploying that service as so it could be on demand, but it's a thought at the moment. It's not planned. We don't like to overcommit and under-deliver at 86,400.
Still very early days, so plenty of time for that. Is there anything in this process which you would say is helping people to move away from like that paperless sort of or branch-based experience? Yeah,
well, for our mortgage process, it's designed for brokers, mortgage brokers. I think they're intermediaries in the UK, and customers. So we've digitised the whole process end to end. So from submitting all your information, verifying your income and expenses, to signing your loan documents. And the other one is verification of identity. So it's actually been something that's been quite hot in the press here, that a lot of the banks still require you to go face to face. And obviously with COVID-19 at the moment, people don't want to do that. At home, you can actually sit down with your partner or with your neighbour, and you can verify each other. So literally, your license, you upload it, we do a liveness test, we look at the geolocation of both people, and that satisfies, it's a face-to-face, albeit it's done virtually. So we've actually been able to do the whole journey end to end purely through digital, and you can do it remotely. So we're the first bank to do that for mortgage brokers in Australia.
There we go. So very much COVID-19 ready then. Thank you.
It wasn't in the intent, but it's a again, there's very few silver linings at the moment for everyone.
Absolutely. Cool. So just a few questions before we wrap up. But 2020, obviously, a lot is being derailed by the virus, as we'll call it. We won't name it. We won't give it that courtesy. But what sort of plans does 2020 hold for 86,400 as a year? And then what do you want to kind of get done in the short term?
Look, 3 things for us. So continue to build a product that people love and want to tell their friends about. That's number one. The second one for us is we have a singular purpose, which is to help Australians take control of their money. So we want people to feel that when they use our product. And then our big goal is we want to help all of our customers save $3,000 in 2020. We've got a better interest rate, significantly better interest rate on savings, significantly better interest rate on home loan. We can help you save, $300 to $400 on your, so $250 to $300 on your energy bill. And then with our upcoming bill service, we've seen people save up to $500 by cancelling things they're not using. So if we can help Australians save $3,000 this year in this climate, it would make a big difference to people.
Amazing. That would be a big help for people, especially towards the back end of the year when things might slow down a little bit. Anyone who's sort of making or building products in this day and age, this is a question I ask all the time. I'm relatively new to product myself, so what's the sort of advice for anyone who's kicking off this journey and when they're trying to build something interesting? How would you typically advise them?
So I would. I don't feel like I'm really in a position to advise, but I could definitely tell people what not to do. But product market fit is incredibly important, and spend a lot of time on that up front. We use the job to be done framework, which I know that 11FS is pioneers in that space. Mm-hmm. So getting really clear on what are the problems you are solving for customers, and then just be careful of getting seduced of cutting corners for short-term game, whether it be customer numbers or some other story. Delivering a beautiful product that people love is what will grow your business. And that would be the main bit of advice. Just focus every single day. How do you get customer feedback and make your product and experience better?
Great, cool. Well, thank you very much for that, Travis. It's been really instructional. Cool. That's our episode for today, featuring Travis. Thank you to him for coming onto the show. Thank you for stopping by. Stop by next week where we'll have another episode with another insightful company. And if you want to see a little bit more of Pulse, the product that underlies this show, then head over to pulse.11fs.com where you can request a demo. If you want to ask us a question or see if there's anyone that we want to include on this show, then be sure to hit us up, pulse@11fs.com, or find us on Twitter @11fspulse. Great, and I'll see you next week.